Hi, this is Tamara from Fashion Roundtable. I'm here with Sarah Mower and Karen Binns to have a conversation about creativity and education, which is one of the threads of our days for our takeover with SHOWstudio. Sarah, you have been such a force for new generation talent and scouring all the universities, looking at the best of the most interesting of what's coming out of the colleges. And what I really loved, and one way we actually really connected, was with Sarah's list, where you put together your curation using Instagram as a tool to amplify different design talents from across the world. I really loved it. And a lot of those people, such as Mower, are people that we have really got involved with Fashion Roundtable. But also what was really interesting was when this week, obviously with the news of Topshop, when Melanie Rickey shared her independent article that she wrote in 1998, I actually styled that first campaign. It was my first advertising job. And it was a curation by you. And while we are all aware of the issues and challenges that have faced the Topshop of recent years, that incarnation was definitely a democratization and an access point for new generation talent to become commercial and to become part of a viable business model. And for that one, we had Serif, and also which doesn't exist, was a brilliant brand, but also we had Hussein Chalayan, who's obviously remarkable. So it's been interesting to me to see that it's not only now where you're digitally visible because of what you've been doing, but actually when you track back, that's obviously been a theme for you for a long time in your career. What is it about new generation talent that excites you, and how, can you quantify how you find that spark and that interest?
Well, my primary calling is as a journalist. I write for. I've written for American Vogue for many years. I'm chief critic for Vogue Runway, but the only thing I'm interested in is where new ideas are coming from, and that takes me right. I try to go to the source, because if I was just sitting in the front row at establishment fashion shows, I don't think that wouldn't satisfy me. I need to know where the next ideas are coming from. They're always coming from the youngest generation. So I've had that interest for a very long time. And when I was at Topshop, I was brought in as a consultant. And the only my condition of being there was that because they wanted to have young designers coming in, and I said I would only do that if I could be overseeing all the contracts to make sure they were fair, that their copyright was ensured that they wouldn't be continue to be the company couldn't sort of run amok with their designs. And so I was someone who's always been tried to be in a position of trust. And anyway, I find that the most exciting thing.
Yeah, but that's interesting that you analyse that the business is actually as important as the seeking of the talent, that you understood that by protecting their IP and their visual identity, you're actually protecting the long-term viability of that brand, because copycats, it's a rife issue. Yeah. And it's one that maybe not enough designers are aware of when they bring out a show, and then next minute it's flooded the market from a different source at a cheaper price point. And equally, when you had Sarah's list, your curation at Liberty, which I came to and loved, you also protected those designers, and yet that's at a different time. That was 2 years ago that you did that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was lucky enough that Liberty saw what I was doing on Instagram, which my whole point of it is to spotlight talent in the hope that they can get contracts through the industry, or indeed jobs. And it was a shot in the dark, really, because I felt it was in 2016 when, as we all know, we were going through the horrors of the beginning of the Brexit debacle and the election of Trump. And I thought, I need to be able to use my platform directly. What can I do to help anybody? All I can do is to spotlight people who I think are amazing on many different levels, ethically and sustainably, and all these things, and maybe get them get them some leverage. And then Liberties came along and asked me whether I would actually curate a small pop-up shop. So yeah, that was a lovely thing that happened. And then indeed, a couple of those designers have continued to be stocked in Liberties. So I'm really happy about that. But I mean, Karen and I are friends from we're of the same generation, and we've seen many generations of designers rise and fall. And Karen is somebody who really understands what the difference is between rising and not, and what you need, the equipment you need.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that your receipt book, darling, is a lot heavier than mine. Just saying. I think your receipt book is incredible because you've given so many people, the platform to see how their brand can work and grow. What I'm excited about now, also working with Sarah, with the BFC, we've got involved in this thing called the Saturday Club. And when you're talking about creativity and education, we also have to think of so many kids out there that have this natural creative talent, but have a fear of even thinking of getting into the fashion industry, mainly because of their background and their color. And now it's exciting for us to be a part of, the diversity and inclusion panel that we've offered our services to get even deeper involved in education at a younger age. So we can, inspire and pull away the fear of these young people that have so much more to offer at a time before they even think of what university they're going to, and try and pull that talent out even earlier. Because the earlier you pull it, the more sustainable it will become when they get to the point where they're going to their colleges and their universities. And, imagine getting someone like Richard Quinn, another Richard Quinn, at 14 and helping him develop himself. So when he gets to the place of Richard Quinn, when he did his first show, he will already be ready for the market. This, to me, is just as important as cultivating them in college, getting them before they get there.
Yeah, there's
I think the Saturday Club, it is the most exciting thing that the BFC is involved in. It's actually the National Saturday Club. It's an organisation, it's a charitable organisation, which runs all kinds of art and design courses in university faculties on a Saturday for school children. So one strand of it is the BFC's fashion and business. It's called a fashion and business course. So the kids from local schools, it's free. I think it's provided in 10 universities up and down the UK. And so it's free. So it's actually a course. It's not just going and playing. It's thinking and analysing, and getting a very early knowledge of what fashion, how business and fashion go hand in hand.
That's interesting because it also opens up the idea of that building, of that university, perhaps of going. I personally was the first in my family to go to university. And so many people that went on the Fabian scheme that I went on, the mentoring scheme, which I did not that long ago, we were all the first. And it's something that I think is a thread of, even at any stage, having education. My mother now is 70, but she's going to the University of the Third Age to take classes. And education doesn't end at 21. It's something that can be ongoing. But also, I wonder, just to pick up another thread, Sarah, have you seen any shifts in the valuing of fashion education in the wider networks at all?
No.
No.
I mean, I think it's generally the most shocking thing is that this government is clearly against creativity. I thought that was a paranoia that I had until the Fatima doesn't realise she's going to go into cybersecurity. Fatima, the ballerina, remember?
Yeah.
That shocking poster. It tracks back to Michael Gove being education minister in 2014, who at that time, it's the first time that Dominic Cummings came into any influence. He was his advisor.
That's right.
And he advised Michael Gove to narrow the curriculum to academic subjects, to the point that yes, schools can offer art and music and drama now, but actually they're only judged by the academic results that they have. So if a school has a limited budget, they all do, what's going to drop off the end? The art subjects, which don't go into their standing, the ranking. So yes, this government is against, in principle, is against creativity and creative people. And I often think that's because creative people are the alternative thinkers. They're the critics. They're the people who effectively show their protests through what they do, including fashion. So sorry, I've gone off on a tangent there. But
no, but I think it's
we're working in a climate where this government does not like creative people, despite the fact that the creative industries are worth so much to this country.
I think that's an interesting point, because the conversations that Royce and I have been having through his leadership on the policy paper that we're doing around representation and inclusion that's coming out early next year, and we've had a series of evidence sessions, have highlighted to me that, and it's a similar equation. At first, I thought if people understood the value of inclusion, they would understand what they were losing, and therefore they would try to sort it out and they would try to fix it in their structures. And what he's shown me through an understanding of critical race theory and the evidence that we've had as well is that this isn't unknown to powerful people in power. But the paradigm is that they know this, but they'd rather still have the control. And equally, if you go down the same argument with creativity, which is independence of thought, which is critical creative thinking, which is an agility to think for yourself and to be your own person, if this is something which is not part of a narratives taught in our education, where do we lead? Equally, by being this in debt to go to university, can you afford to demonstrate? Can you afford to protest against a government if you have to hold down 3 jobs, as many millennials and many Generation Z young people do now, because they can't afford to live in a city where most of the jobs are, and they've got this student debt. Does it force you away from those positions? I think that's a really pertinent point. I don't think it's a rabbit hole at all, Sarah. I think it's something that needs to be flagged. What is interesting is we have a time now where we are at a critical mass because of the pandemic. And we've seen the structural inequalities of being from a working class background and even being able to study during that time. If you haven't got Wi-Fi, you haven't got a computer, you haven't got a library open now to study. And when I was personally protesting to save my local library, one of the reasons was people were travelling on 2 buses to get there to study because it was peaceful. And I was so angry with the council for wanting to move it somewhere else and shove it and then close it down. But I think that, so we can think that these are rabbit holes of what we feel, but they're not. They're part of a bigger picture. And if you then start valuing, very small c conservative, which become large c conservative policies, you end up with a really narrower structure of only state school education, because it's worth saying that the private sector doesn't follow this system. They do teach art and design in school as part of their STEAM, what's called STEAM curriculum. I mean, have you seen a rise in, you always find a very diverse people, community, Sarah, in your work on your list, or, to to push forwards. But are you seeing a rise in people from undiverse cultures coming up as a consequence of that education, do you think?
Undiverse?
Yeah. Are you seeing a kind of narrowing of what's coming up?
I never look for the narrow, so I go out to whatever I think always what's considered the margin is where the interesting people are.
100%.
I mean, you know what? To be brutally 100 and straight up,
go on then. Karen.
Money talks. We can all act like we don't know that money talks, but without the coin, the UK is not getting all those fees for schools. They're not getting all the money necessary to be able to pay your mortgage. You think of someone like Kim Jones. You stop creativity in education, you will not produce another Kim Jones. There's thousands of them out there now waiting to get into college and to be that person they need to be in order to get these jobs. Kim Jones is one of our biggest ambassadors. He is someone that's British, but they're paying him in Paris. They're paying him in Italy to do what he has to do. So that means that we have so much homegrown talent here. You cut the creativity and the importance of that in education. You are chopping down the real coin that's keeping this UK market open. And at the end of the day, these are the people that are spending more money. The creators have always spent more money because they've always had the opportunity to make more money on a bigger scale. You stop that. You stop the Kim Jones of tomorrow. He owns his place. He pays more taxes than anybody in Parliament. Less talk, coins. Because at the end of the day, we're going to lose all that. They're going to lose it. The government loses. The UK loses all of that money flowing. And to me, it's a question of a coin. Do you want the money or not? As the creative industry, we have always spent more money than we should.
I wonder if they do want to. No, I mean, I've shifted on a U-turn on this because I have argued the place and the rank and the stature of our UK fashion industry for several years now. And I'm starting to think that they don't want our money because in 1 week, this week, I've said it on practically every panel, we've lost double the jobs of the entire UK fishing industry just from Arcadia and Debenhams alone, if those don't read.
Yeah.
So we are at a critical mass of people who clearly either don't value or don't know or don't care. And I don't know which one of those three it is, because I'm certainly highlighting the value of the fashion industry in every conversation I'm having. I'm literally kicking back day in, day out about why aren't we being cared for, even to the subject now of there's a lack of clarity about who will or won't have to self-isolate from Saturday, because at the moment the guidance I've had is people who are performing or film. Well, where's fashion? Does that mean fashion shoots? I'm not clear. So we've asked the government on that today, because at least then I will know whether I can say, right, it's all guns ahead. You can move, you can go to Paris, Milan, whatever. You can come back. It's not a problem for you in the business. And that will help the business to grow. Karen, I want to draw on the conversation that we just had before we started recording as well on, you've worked with a lot of talent as it's gone from that cusp of being a student into, starting to show Ashish, Maharishi, and now with Bianca Saunders. How do you help them nurture that education into actual business viability?
Well, I think, as we know, there's a lot of people in these positions, in these big brands, that they probably have 40% creativity, a 60% business head. And for me, it's all well and good to make a dress with 100 seams or just one seam. That's all well and good. We have to take into consideration the reality of someone wearing it, purchasing it, and developing a consumer that sticks with you for years. So for me, it's all about the stability of the brand, because I don't think a problem in the UK would ever be talent. It's endless talent here. It's just, I think, not enough reality as far as sticking to, the criteria of having a brand and holding on to that brand. as Aaron, we all know, we've seen people come and disappear into thin air because there's no reality. This business is not a party. This business is not, a drink in the pub. This business is serious. And you have to understand the seriousness of holding a consumer and exciting that consumer, not over drowning the consumer, because then you can lose the consumer. There's always going to be another one that can over drown and overstate. But it's about the stability of your brand and what you need to do to understand creativity still doesn't have to be 90%. It can be 65 and you can last longer.
Thank you. Sarah, before we go, I just want to also ask, what would you like to see coming through in education that would support the talent? I think business training is clearly important to understand, not to get caught in the hype, when you first have that moment. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, I think that Karen and I completely agreed on this. There needs to be an initiative to show children, school children, and their parents and families the whole range of opportunities there are. When you're 12, because so many families will say, no, you've got to be a lawyer or a doctor or dentist, accountant, and others will, just see that there are dead ends everywhere. So I think in order to change, we have to really, a range of people in the industry have to step up and see the value of speaking directly to the young and supporting education. Because, personally for me, the most rewarding thing is to be able to be the privilege of being able to meet and understand young people and to guide them through. So that's my hope, that fundamental change where the industry will go out and trouble itself, take the effort to take the responsibility to go out there. Karen, we've been talking a lot about this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something we should do with Fashion Roundtable after the lockdown, is look at having a opportunity to support doing a mapping of where people are and perhaps what schools they could go to. There are schemes, but they're much more, you have to commit a lot. I'm thinking of one with City Hall where they've got you going into a school, but it's a lot of commitment, and I think that would make a lot of people nervous. But going in once, giving a talk, my school did it, where we had former girls come back to the school, and I remember one was really funny and dry, and I think she was a journalist. And equally, when I joined UCL, they had former UCL graduates. Obviously they were, quite they had accolades because that's kind of university. But, it's just that also meeting fresh ideas, asking a 12-year-old what jobs are out there. They don't know every job that's out there, because sometimes careers advice itself could be limited by, who's lobbying them as well. Become a video gamer or become a this or that, because those jobs are the jobs that the people who are advising on careers are telling them, because that's all the information they're getting. So I think that's a really good way of connecting in a human way and to help people understand opportunity. I think that's I think that's something for us to explore, actually, post-lockdown, when we can actually see people in real life and not be behind a screen.
Also, to be honest, now that we have the people are the young students that are in their MA and BAs, it's also to help direct them, in the right position, in the right direction, to let them know before they even graduate how serious it is to understand the business side of what they're doing. And I think there's a lot of lack of that going on. That is mandatory now, because I don't even want to say a name or two of 2 or 3 people that I thought were brilliant. They're no longer around.
Oh, no.
And that's disheartening.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. And they're such talented people, but they were just too far driven to being over creative instead of getting the reality in there at the beginning of when they start their brand.
Yeah, it's come to me over the past couple of days. I suddenly thought, well, why does nobody who even, graduating from an MA in fashion, why is it they don't know anything about the law, about contracts? This is the thing, employment law. This is not built into education. So you're nurturing people who, yes, are brilliant. And it's like, what does that person do when the first contract comes along? Just sign away absolutely everything?
Thank you.
No. All of us need to know about all those things. So, Karen and I, we've been talking about, providing this and accountancy advice, all these things that that's not forthcoming in the arts tradition. So, yeah, and I double checked with a couple of tutors yesterday to see if they do any of this, and they said, "Oh, that would be a good idea." So,
oh my god. No, because the other relevance is that with Brexit, IP law is about to change in the UK, and if they're going to be headquartered in the UK or they're going to be in another country but want to sell in the UK from the EU, the law's changing. We've done a session which it was out for our Brexit Day, where we have an IP lawyer explaining all of this, and we can share in the resources how you can reach her. She's called Alison Cole. She's at UDL. Equally, Vikram Menon's helping a lot of new generation designers with accounts, and there are people out there who want to help young talent.
Say Vikram.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, they want to help the talent, because the talent aren't being taught the skills, and that's one thing that will help a business go under, is not knowing how to do their books, or not knowing that if you sign something, you've signed your name away, like Christian Lacroix, who I worked for, who didn't own his own name. And so it's prevalent across the board. I think that's a really valid point. Really valid.
And something else that graduates need to know is that there's no such thing as an internship as a graduate. The law is that you have to be paid. You're a fully fledged person. If someone employs you, they cannot employ you for free. I mean, something as basic as that is not widely understood in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, so many kids have been rinsed out so badly, and it's like, then they think that that's the norm, and then they do it as well, and it becomes, a domino effect and
cycle of abuse.
Yeah, it's abusive. It's outrageous.
I mean, I met one recently, and she was going to India to work for a designer, and I knew that designer. It's not Ashish, don't worry. It's someone that I knew and worked with, and I thought, oh, that is going to be a nightmare. And by the way, she's super talented, and she's going to rinse her. And it was like, what, you're paying to go to India to go and work for someone pro bono? This wasn't that long ago. And because you're thinking it's a foot in the door, you're probably putting like quite a lot of your family's money into going up. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's like next level. That's not even just doing a bit of help. That is intense. And I think that's something that, I wish that her university had said maybe that's not a good idea, or worked with her to negotiate with that designer. And I think you're right. It's that arc almost, not only the younger into education, but also that bit between education into business that I think there's a glitch missing. And I'm really happy to share any resources that you want, because I think it does really worry me. I've also over my career seen so much talent that's just had a moment and then gone, and probably the mum's house is mortgaged up to the hilt to try and justify it, and it really worries me. Because they've thought they've had their moment and that it will build to something, because the sector can build on that as well and thrive. It thrives on this next new, and actually a business that lasts is, look at Roxanda. I keep thinking of Roxanda in this conversation, who I just love for her way she communicates with women, and it's grown slowly but brilliantly, and it's an embedded British success story for the fashion industry. She's a fantastic designer whose shows are always incredible, and you believe in the brand, and I'm sure she'll be here in 20 years. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I mean, there's a sense of reality there. She gives you flamboyance. She gives you all the majors that you want to feel. but you can wear the dress more than once.
Yes. And you look great.
You look great.
You feel good. And you can walk in it.
Yeah.
And the zip doesn't break. The basics, and the zip doesn't break. And the material doesn't fall apart. I mean, I've seen it all. Thank you so much for this conversation and for taking the time for Fashion Roundtable, for this SHOWstudio takeover. And Karen also is hosting a series of conversations, which I'm sure will be really interesting for this. And I really value both of your time and your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, SHOWstudio.
Just video. Yeah.